Hey, everybody, welcome in the kitchen. We got QB mechanics class tonight. Apologies for the slight delay, but we have something exciting for you today. Today is all about reads. Let's give a few seconds for everyone to get in, and we'll start. We'll give it about 30 seconds before we start. I will say what caused the delay. I was down with Tom today. I had to make it down from Tom back to LA. We were dealing with that sort of traffic, which can be a little bit variable. And in this case, was very variable. Not fun variable, like mechanical variables, but just it was bad. So let's get started. So we're talking about reads, and we're talking about how to read a defense. That's it. So we're not going to talk really about, how to change a play when you've got, four guys on this side of the line and only three guys to block them, because that's more for a coach to teach you when you actually get in with a system, and they'll teach you exactly how to do that. But in general, it's a good idea. If you're running to that side, you only have three blockers for four guys. Well, maybe change the play. But we're not talking about that today. We're not even really talking too much about, okay, you've got this coverage and this route called, here's the person you're reading on that. No, again, that's more for, team specific. Once you're getting with a coach, they're going to teach you those types of things. And kind of, once you're with a team, you're going to learn those types of things. What I want to talk about today is at a more basic level, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys in college who don't fully understand some of these concepts. I mean, there's some guys in the NFL that don't fully understand these concepts, and it makes a big difference. And even if guys do understand these concepts, a lot of times they're not talked about. So they would say, oh yeah, I kind of like feel that, but and maybe I do that, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. These are some things that for me, as a quarterback, I didn't understand until later. And I feel like if I'd understood them earlier, I would have been a lot better as a quarterback. So let's hop in. First things first, let's just talk basic defense. So defense at its most basic, you got 11 guys on the field and everyone has a gap. That means that in run defense, if the ball is ran, everyone knows exactly what hole they're supposed to fill. Defense has gaps, and they're all lettered, A, B, C, D. And in those gaps, each defender has a gap. Now, for different defensive plays, for different defensive coverages, different defensive blitzes, a different player might have a different gap. So on, some defense that the defense is running, a D lineman might cover the A gap. Something else, a linebacker might have to cover in that space because they're running a stunt or something with a D line. So, different players can cover different gaps. And that ends up becoming really important when reading a defense. But the first thing you're going to learn as a quarterback for reading a defense is where are the safeties and how many are there. So when you're coming up to the line, it's what every coach will teach a quarterback. Where are my safeties? So you've usually got two safeties on the field, and with those two safeties on the field, they're either going to go one high or they're going to go two high safeties. That's basically going to give you the basis for the rest of your picture for a defense. So if I walk up to the line and I see they've got one high safety, that's going to tell me a whole lot. There's only a few coverages that they can run from there. They can run cover 3, which means, you've got 3 safeties, but it really means that there's 3 defenders that are playing deep, and then the linebackers are going to play close. So that's like 3 deep, 4 underneath. You could be playing man coverage. Let's call it man cover 1. So man cover 1, that's 1 safety. He's playing high, the rest are playing man. And we'll talk about how to differentiate that. And then frankly, if that safety tries to come down late and try to actually cover somebody, you could be playing cover 0. But the safety is going to give away all that stuff. And obviously there's a lot the defense is going to try to do to fool you and save it for late. But at the end of the day, the defense has to show their hand, because if they don't show their hand, then they're going to be out of position for the play, and they're not going to have the correct leverage to defend the play properly and how they want to defend the play. And I'm going to talk about leverage in a second, because this class really is about leverage. That is one of the most important parts of football. I'd put it up there with timing as being one of those most important parts. But the other, basic thing that a defense can do is play 2 high safeties. This gives them a different set of defenses that could be within their realm of possibilities. You're running your cover 2s, your cover 4s. You could be doing something special with rotating a defense and running what some people call like a cover 5 or cover 6, where one side's playing a cover 2, one side's playing a cover 3. We don't need to talk about that right now. Let's switch over to leverage, because this is truly what puts it all into perspective for a quarterback. Once a quarterback understands leverage, they understand defense, they understand offense, they understand the game. So for me, that's what's most important. Now, what is leverage? What does leverage mean? Leverage is basically positioning. So, not just, and it doesn't mean, hey, this player on the field is a linebacker versus a safety. No, that's not what leverage means. It means compared to your offense, where are the defensive players on the actual field? If there was a grid, let's say a latitude and longitude for every single point on the field, leverage would be, where are these defenders actually placed? Because let's say a receiver is lined up where I'm at, and then there's a defender 5 yards away. Well, if they're 5 yards away and straight head up with me, there's certain routes they can cover. There's certain routes they cannot cover. So if a defender's 5 yards away from me and 2 yards inside, there's a different set of routes that they can cover. There's a different set of routes that they can't cover. If they're 2 yards away from me and 1 yard inside, same thing. Some routes they can cover, some routes they can't. And so that positioning on the field of every defender in reference to where your offensive players are is leverage, and is super, super important. Because like I said, that dictates what routes they can cover, what routes they can't cover. And when you understand that, you understand where to put your offensive players and what routes you can throw, what routes you can't throw on any given play. It'll also give away clues as to what defenses they're running or what defense they could possibly be running. And then this is why it's so important to know your own offense like the back of your hand, and what routes you're running work against which defenses. Because once you put that together, once you say, okay, my guys are going to be here, here, and here, and their guys are going to be there. Okay, I know where to go with the football. I know which player possibly read to make the best decision with the football. The other thing we talk about a lot in terms of leverage with football is that leverage is so important to the offensive line and defensive line, not just in terms of, this D lineman is head up with me instead of being outside. That means they're probably trying to stunt inside so that they have some, leverage to get inside, but it's also up and down. So as an offensive lineman, if I'm trying to block somebody and I'm standing much taller than they are, well, we know in football, the low man wins. So, they're lower than I am. They actually have leverage over me because they're lower. And so that works a lot in terms of that type of positioning. And it's important for QBs and receivers to understand that too. Because even with receivers and defensive backs, the low man can win there too, especially at the line. But then when it gets later in the play, well, maybe the high man wins because you got to go up to get a ball sometimes. So that up and down leverage sometimes becomes important for the bulk of what we want to talk about today, and for the bulk of what a quarterback needs to understand in terms of the X's and O's. I'll be talking about leverage as it relates to, how far inside is a defender? Is a defender outside? Is a defender head up? And how far off is a defender playing? Think about that. If a defender's 20 yards off, do you think they're playing me man-to-man? I guess down and distance is important, but probably not, because they can give up a 5-yard hitch, and then, where the receiver who got the ball can run for however far, because they've got plenty of optionality if someone's playing 20 yards off. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what leverage is. Now let's talk about how a defense thinks about leverage. So most defensive backs are taught that if you're playing man coverage, you want to play, let's call it between 5 and 7 yards off. So, I'm a DB, and the receiver is the outside receiver, to the field. Okay, I want to play 5 to 7 yards off, and I want to play, call it 2 yards inside of that receiver, so towards the quarterback. That means that I'm taking away the slant. They want to take away the slant. They want to take away the inside cutting routes. Why is that important? Anybody just think through it. Why would it be important to take away the in-cutting routes? You're leaving more room towards the outside. If you're playing inside, you're leaving a lot more room towards the outside. Maybe it's easier to complete the streak, the out, the comeback, that type of thing. Well, the reason that they're okay with that is because it's a tough throw. If that DB's body is in between the quarterback and where they're trying to throw the ball, it's a tough throw, right? Exactly. So they want to take away the in-cutting routes. Those are the routes that you're going to complete a higher percentage of the time, that it's going to be much easier to complete against man coverage. So as an offense, if they're giving us inside cutting routes, why don't we take them? They're higher percentage. Let's just take what they give us. It's like stealing candy from a baby if they're giving us in breaking routes. And so as you go along your quarterbacking journey and you're able to identify man coverage, and then maybe you see a weak link on the defense where somebody is playing man coverage, but they're playing head up on that receiver. Instead of playing inside, they're head up with them. Oh, they're giving you the slant all day. Now think about that. They don't just have to be playing outside to give up the slant. They can be playing head up or even half a yard inside and still give up the slant and still give up the in-breaking routes. because they didn't have that full leverage of the 2 yards inside. So those are the types of subtleties that you will start to pick up that are very, very important. But these things can also be clues as to what defense the defense is actually running. So if I go, let's say I'm a shade outside of this receiver, it's not very smart for me to play man coverage a shade outside of that receiver, is it? So most likely that DB has help, or that, you know, linebacker, whoever it is, has help. Maybe they're forcing you in somewhere. That'll start to become clear when you watch the film. Do they have a tendency to play man coverage from a little bit head up or whatever? And so maybe they're giving you that type of stuff. Or when they play head up to outside, does that mean they're filtering you in somewhere? That's the reason. I mean, that's one of the reasons film is so important, but film is everything in football. So let's talk a little bit more about that, about filtering in somewhere. Again, I'm DB. I'm a cornerback. I'm on the very outside. I'm guarding the number 1 receiver, as they call him. So I'm playing man coverage. I'm 6 yards off, 2 yards inside. Well, what can I be running if I'm all the way on the outside? My butt is to the sideline, and I'm totally giving up the slant in any in-cutting routes. Well, unless you've seen something on film where that's how they try to, you know, cover you man, in which case that's insane. Throw the slant, or, you know, throw the ball to that guy. What they're probably doing is filtering you in somewhere. Their butts to the sideline. They're filtering you into. They're filtering you into safety. You know, potentially linebacker. So in cover 2, you see this all the time. That cornerback has no deep responsibility. They're filtering you into the linebacker, or the safety. You know, the real reason is they're filtering you into the safety, because if you take that release, they cannot let you to the outside. They want you to. They want to put hands on you. They want to push you into the safety, because the safety has further to run towards the sideline. So they want to make sure not to give up that, you know, cover 2 streak, as they call it, where you've got that space to the sideline. So that's a little bit about leverage and a little bit about, you know, what's going through a defender's mind, what's going through a coach's mind. In man coverage, it's do not give up the outside, do not give up the inside. And if it's not, do not give up the inside, then run something to the inside and take advantage of it, because that could go to the house. You see it all the time. A slant against man coverage that, you know, slips it and just takes it to the house because there's no one back there. It's beautiful when it happens that way. Not for a defense, but to my eyes, it's beautiful. So the next thing is now, in terms of leverage, and this is in zone coverages, in terms of leverage, what you see with a lot of defenders is they have different body positions. It's not just where they are on the field, it's also what way are they facing? Where is their momentum carrying them? That becomes super important. And I'm going to group it in with leverage. It's probably not, but so these are mostly for reads against the zone. Okay, they're mostly reads against zone. But when you're reading a zone, you're trying to put pressure on one person. That's basically it. It doesn't matter the coverage. You're trying to put pressure on somebody. You're trying to put them in a bind, so they have to choose one person to cover. There's 2 types of reads at its basic level. There's 2 types. You have a horizontal read. This is your like curl flat read. So think about it. You've got outside receiver running a curl. You've got your inside receiver running a flat, and it kind of looks like this. And you have one defender for them that's trying to cover two people. Which one are they going to take, right? Those are your basic reads. That's your horizontal type read. You're putting somebody in a bind. Do I go left? Do I go right? Your other type of read is going to be your vertical read. That is your smash concept type of thing. So, you've got a hitch on the outside, you've got a corner out from the inside, and the person in the middle is trying to decide, who do I take, right? That's your smash concept. So those are your vertical type reads. They get more fun too. Any type of most types of streaks, most things over the top. Usually you've got something underneath to hold somebody to, but sometimes they can be horizontal, I guess. But at your basic level, you've got your vertical and your horizontal reads. In your horizontal reads, let's talk a little bit about when you might throw it to the left, when you might throw it to the right. So let me ask everybody something. I'm the linebacker. I'm trying to cover the person who's to the inside of me, to my left. But there's also someone to the outside of me, to my right. If I'm faced like this, am I in a position to get to that person behind me? It depends, it depends how close I am to them. If I'm a yard from them, if they're this close to me, then maybe. But if they're this close to me and I have momentum going that way, then no, I'm still not getting there. I'm not going to be able to flip my hips that quickly and bat it away if I have momentum going that way. If I'm trying to cover somebody inside and I'm faced like this, no, I'm probably not going to get there. There's not much I'm going to be able to do with it. So where the defender's facing is one thing that can determine where you're throwing the ball. Next, am I turned and running? Okay, if I'm turned and running, I'm not going to have momentum to go back the other way, right? My momentum's carrying me one way. If I'm shuffling, well, then I have a little bit more leeway to go one way or another, but it's still a lot to plant and go back one way. So, shuffling is another thing you look for. But those are basically the two things. You're looking at body position, and then you're looking at momentum. Now, for vertical reads, same thing. If I'm on top of your, let's take the smash concept. I'm on top. I'm on the corner. I'm on top of your hitch, right? There's going to be enough separation in the route if you run it properly, so that you're going to be able to get back. So the DB's not going to be able to get back when the ball is thrown to take away that corner route. So if I'm all the way up on your hitch route, even if I try to jump it properly, you shouldn't be able to get back there. There's supposed to be enough separation. If I'm playing in between and, leaning a little bit, maybe I'm taking a couple shuffles, well, you got to make a decision, but you can probably sneak it on in front. If I'm turning and running, obviously you're going to throw it down here. If I'm turning and running down here to the hitch, well, obviously you're going to throw it back there. But the in-betweens are what gets you a little bit. One clever thing that DBs will do a lot is they'll try to come inside. So if I come inside, the hitch route is up here. I've come inside a little bit. Coming inside allows me to take away that hitch route a little bit better. And then I can also play at a certain depth to maybe look like I can take away the corner route. Well, DBs cannot react to balls that are over their head this way. There's just no way to like flip your hips and try to get back there. It's much easier for a DB to keep it all in front of them and run back and like take something away like this. But when it's behind them like that, it's much harder. It's much harder. Those are positions that I look for DB to be in, where you can kind of like beat them to a corner, where they would have to like flip their hips totally and try to get back there. Because when there is momentum from your receiver, that's just not something that a DB can adjust to. So again, I would say that reading those DBs who are in between, either horizontally or vertically, you're going to look at their body position. Are they facing you? Are they turned like this? If they're turned like this, they can move a little bit more. They can move better, forward and back. Same thing. If they're turned like this, they can move better side to side. If it's a vertical read and they're facing the line of scrimmage, they can't get back to the ball behind them. And same thing. If it's a horizontal read and they're facing one of the receivers, well, they can't get back the other way. So that's pretty simplified, basic level. No matter what the read is, that's something you're going to be able to take with you. A couple things that are really helpful in terms of playing quarterback and just dealing with mostly any sort of leverage is when DBs are trying to mess with you, which good ones will do. They'll make the read hard on you. They should. Maybe play in the middle. They know they have to get down to this route, but they'll play in the middle, fake like they're going to cover deep and try to get downhill. It's really important to know what kind of ball to throw. Let's take the corner route again. Especially in the red zone, there's some times where you got to get the ball out early and you have to get some air on it and you need to put it to the corner. A DB coming inside is one of those where they've maybe left a lot of room towards the sideline, so they are really just with their leverage taking away your hitch route and then making it look like with either their depth or whatever it is, making it look like they can cover to the corner, but they can't cover to the corner unless you're throwing that line ball. If you're throwing a line ball, then, they're inside enough so that they can swat it away. But when you throw that ball with air over their heads, that's that reaction we're talking about. They're square to you. They're not going to be able to get back behind there. So that's where, the types of balls to throw start becoming more important. Leverage is really going to dictate what type of ball to throw. And if you don't believe me on that, what's a back shoulder throw? It's simply a throw where leverage dictated you had to throw it back shoulder instead of being able to leave a receiver deep. So let's just talk briefly about the back shoulder throw. Then let's take some questions. So with the back shoulder throw, that's just a streak that ended up, turning into a back shoulder. So a couple rules for streaks. Number one, hopefully you've heard this, but if he's even, he's leaving. That means if a DB is flat-footed, not just getting on their horse and sprinting backwards, if that receiver gets even with them, they're gone because your receiver has momentum. And so that's why momentum is so important in the game. So if your receiver has momentum and that DB does not, your receiver's gone. And it's very rare that a DB is going to have as much momentum getting back. So sometimes a DB does. They're in good position. They're in great position. They're on the hip of the receiver, maybe even a little bit in front because they know a streak is coming. And so they go to cover that. And because their leverage is in front of the receiver, it gives an opportunity to throw that back shoulder. But you would never throw a back shoulder if the DB's leverage was a step behind, half a step behind, because then you're still going up top because you're giving room. That's a little bit about the leverage on an individual route. And you know what? There's important things to know about leverage on probably each route. Corner routes, out routes, comebacks, every single one. I would say streaks and corners, they're really important to know the throws because sometimes, on corner routes, a DB has good leverage. You call it and they end up being head up. Maybe they saw a tendency and they try to jump it. Well, then you might have to flatten it off or something. But the game's about leverage. It just is, especially when you're playing quarterback at any level. It's so important to understand. So I want to take a few questions. I know we've got one right now, so I'll check that out. Okay, so this is more of a mechanics question, but the QB needs to speed up his timing, and you're seeing the Hershiser drill. And since leg lift and stride length are different throwing a baseball compared to a football, what would the drill look like for a QB? So for a QB, and this is one of the things we're actually filming right now, you really need to drive off your back leg, and that drive off your back leg gets you into foot strike sooner. It gets you into foot strike quicker. It also gives you a lot more momentum towards your target, and so that gives you more power on the throw. Super important. One way that I like to do it, just get in your QB stance, and you can't put your whole butt into like a wall because that's just not how a QB throws, right? But if you get, here you go. If you get your hip lined up to a wall or something, maybe on a corner of a wall, and your front foot is in front of it, then you can start to feel that lean, that push that you need to get into that wall. And what you want to feel in your back foot when you're throwing is the same thing that you feel into that wall. You want to feel a super hard push. So what I see with a lot of quarterbacks is it's a soft push and it's slow. It's like that. It's like when what you want to see is that. I'm sure you all saw the difference. You don't want to see this. You want to see that. Even if you're slowing the arm down to kind of make a slower throw, you still want to see some good lower half. Right? You want to see that good lower half. So that's one way that we can start to get some speed. The best way, it's going to be the speed towels. I got to see a lot of speed towels. I have to see speed towels delivered with intent. That's the most important thing when you're doing speed towels. They're so good for you, and they're so important to getting used to going fast, which is the crux of playing quarterback. You need to practice so fast so that the game slows down. It's one of the most important things. If you practice slow, the game's going to be fast, and there's going to be no time to react. It's going to be bad. If you practice fast and get used to that speed, everything slows down. You see the game in slow motion. You have a ton of time to react. That's how you have to be as a quarterback. Everything needs to be calm. It needs to be automatic. So that's my big thing. Speed towels. And when you're practicing, you need intent on every single one. It needs to be like it cannot be. I see a lot of guys doing this. That's not a real throw, is it? No. I need full intensity speed towels every rep. It needs to be going fast, full of intent every single rep. 30 seconds. Take some time. Keep doing it. 30 seconds. And start with maybe like 2 or 3 sets. Work your way up to 4. The more you can do that, the more you can get used to that, the better. And then that doesn't just end with speed towels. It needs to be every drop. So every practice drop, even when you're in your room, go full speed. Go faster than you think you can go. But you need to start getting used to going faster in order to get used to game speed. Or else when the game does come, it's going to be fast for you. It's going to be too fast. So that's my piece on that one. Got one more. What do you think about or focus on when you're doing speed towels with intent? This sounds funny, but I see a route. For me personally, I see a route every time I throw. Whatever the receiver is doing, I see what I'm throwing. That helps me out, but it's difficult mentally because you can, it can take some time to actually like see each throw, but really it's just about speed. I had trouble like going, full speed, unless somebody was just like continued telling that to me. So like, I'll be like, okay, I'm going as fast as I can go. And then someone would say, go faster, faster, faster. And I would be like, oh, I got a little bit more in there. I have a little extra in the tank. And so I think that's more what I mean in terms of intent. It's just, are you going as fast as you can possibly go on this rep? Starts with the legs. Upper body needs to be totally relaxed. You can't throw like this. You cannot throw a football like this. You can't get a spiral like that. The upper body needs to be totally relaxed. The lower body and the core needs to be working as hard as it can and going as fast as it can. So that's what I have to offer on speed towels with intent. Happy to clarify though. And I think that was from Barry Smith. Barry, or sorry, from Sam. Sam, feel free to message on Discord or anything for any clarification in terms of that, because I'm happy to offer it. Even send in videos of your speed towels. I'm happy to look at videos of speed towels. I promise every single video I will say go faster. I really hope that I see a video of speed towels where I'm like, wow, that was really fast. That was great. I think you can probably always go faster. So get used to it. Get used to it. I'm going to leave it there for now. And please message me on the Discord with any other questions. I'm around to look at video, to help however I can. We've got a new series coming soon that's specifically for parents. Really excited about that. There'll be more info on that in the coming weeks, but I think that'll start, next month. But it should be awesome. I'm excited that we're doing specifically something for parents. And thank you again. Any questions about reads, anything you're getting from your coaches that you have questions about, I'm around. Give it a shout on the Discord. But thank you all again. I think we've had a great QB mechanics program, and please let us know also in the Discord if there's any other classes you'd like to see on QB mechanics, or QB improvement in general. I'm happy to help, always around. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for being with us.